Welcome to Nobody Told Me. I'm Jan Black.
And I'm Laura Owens. Joining us on this episode is Jim Morris, who's an athlete, author, teacher, and inspiration for the movie The Rookie, which was based on Jim's book, The Oldest Rookie, Big League Dreams from a Small Town Guy.
Jim's journey has been called a testimony to the power of dreams and their ability to inspire and transform human life. Jim, we thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
The Rookie was a major motion picture, but for people who aren't familiar with your story, give us a thumbnail sketch.
Oh, wow. Teaching out in West Texas at a little bitty school for a team who hadn't won in a lot of years. I took over, and let's just say they'd won one game each year for the 3 years before I got there. And I wanted to change the mindset of these kids, and I didn't know how to do it. And then, I just started teaching them my way. I had a father who was abusive, verbally and physically. Then my football coach was verbally abusive. And I thought, if I ever get to work with kids, I'm going to teach them. I'm not going to yell at them. I'm not going to scream. I'm not going to curse. I'm going to talk to them like they're human beings. It ended up working. They bought into it. Later on, the second year, there was an athletic director who stopped me on my way to practice one day to tell me, you've taken these kids as far as you can. They're never going to amount to anything. And then he put his finger in my chest and he goes, as for you, you're too nice, and you're never going to go as far as I'm going to go in the coaching field because you're too nice and I know how to step on people. The problem with that was that two of my kids heard it. And before I could get to the field, everybody on the team knew that the guy not only in charge of all the coaches, but all the kids thought they weren't worth coaching. And so what it came down to was a little bet. If they won a district championship, which this group of kids had never won in baseball, I had to try out again at the age of 35, weighing 260 pounds, and they won, and I did, and then Dennis Quaid played me.
That's the shorthand version of it. Yeah, wow. Well, what did you feel like when the kids challenged you to this, to try out for the majors?
I just thought it was a lark. I thought, you know what, if it gets them to play better, I'll say whatever I need to say right now. I just want them to understand that there is an adult who believes in them, and I want to push them and not break them, but I want to get the best out of them that I possibly can without deflating anything that's going on. And we learned a lot that year. We learned how to talk to each other. We learned how not to talk to other teams, not talk to other umpires. And the only thing we're going to say to each other are positive, encouraging, and things that build us up. Nobody's trying to make an error. Nobody's trying to drop a fly ball. Nobody's trying to give up a home run. We are an individual positions playing a team sport, and we're all trying to win.
You were originally drafted in the first round in 1984. And what happened that you didn't become a major league player then?
A lot of injuries and a lot of me thinking that I was better than I was. I came from a football town in Texas. We won a state championship in football. Our football coach hated baseball, so we did not have baseball. I played summer league, 10 games a year, and I thought I was really good. And I had a good arm, but when I got to my first spring training, I realized, you know what? Everybody else got a good arm too. And so I tried to push it a little bit too hard. I tore my arm up pretty good. I had Tommy John surgery. And I had to take a couple of years off, came back, worked on my elbow real well, forgot about my shoulder. Next thing was the shoulder. And then from 18 to 24, I have 5 surgeries. At 24, I'm in Dr. James Andrews' office in Birmingham, Alabama. And I go, Doc, it's time for me to go home and grow up. If I can't play the game I love, maybe I can teach it. I'm going to go home, get a degree, and see what happens.
What did you feel like you had to prove to the kids when they challenged you to try out for the majors?
I think that the only thing that I thought I had to prove to them was that I believed in them. I think they needed to know that an adult had faith in them, that they could get something done. And this is a group of kids who were looked down upon by all the other teams in the district, by a whole bunch of people. Their parents were looked down upon as a minority group, and everybody just thought, I'm going through here on my way to somewhere else. And that's what those kids thought. They're coming through here to beat us and move on.
Do you still keep in touch with that group of kids that was so instrumental in you ending up being the inspiration for The Rookie?
I did a Michael J. Fox deal at the ballpark in Arlington several years ago, and half of my kids showed up at that. And I also go into inner city schools and I help redo baseball fields to get kids off the street. And it's not just because of baseball. It's just because of baseball is what I know. Mm-hmm. And a lot of those kids are involved in my nonprofit. And we've turned a couple of schools around to where even the alumni have gotten back in. They've planted flowers and trees and everything else around the campuses, and they've made it look really nice. A couple of kids this past year made all district, and one made all state. That's never happened at that school. And so I don't take pride in that. I just think that's something that we can give back. I think if we need to give back in whatever it is that we're good at. If they wanted me to go out and sing a song, that's not happening. My wife can go do that. They want to learn how to play baseball. I'm going to teach them how to play baseball.
How did pitching in the majors change you as a person, and how did it inspire your team, those kids?
Well, those kids thought they saw it in me the whole time. At 24, I quit baseball. At 28, I had a surgery in which the doctor said, you'll never, ever pitch again. We cut 85% of your deltoid out. Not happening, won't happen, can't happen. At 35, I come back throwing 98 to 102. And, a lot of people go, oh, secular world, whatever. You worked out hard. You worked out with your kids. I speak to a lot of churches also, and I just think it wasn't in my timing. It was in God's timing. I think when he thought I was ready, I was ready. And I was ready to show a group of kids that anything is possible.
What do you remember the most about your major league debut?
Man, there were a lot of things that day. I remember not even being able to walk into the clubhouse until I signed my big league contract. I signed my contract. They gave me 10 days meal money, and they gave me more cash for 10 days to eat than I made in 2 months teaching.
Wow.
And I thought, this is unbelievable. And then I walk into the clubhouse, and there's Wade Boggs, who had just gotten his 3,000th hit, automatic Hall of Famer. They've heard about this crazy science teacher for 3 months, and now here I am. He walks up, and he hugs me. He goes, man, that is the best story I've ever heard. And I'm looking at him, and I'm a coach and a fan, and I'm like, you're Wade Boggs. He just started giggling at me and walked off. I got to meet a whole bunch of really incredible people.
So how did the other guys on the major league teams that you were associated with, how did they impact you and inspire you?
They told me that you have to be, as a reliever, you have to have a very short memory. You go out one night, you do really well, you forget about it because you might be out there the next night. If you do really bad, you forget about it because you might be out there the next night. They taught me about how to pitch to people. They taught me how to throw up and down, in and out. But mainly they taught me about the head games that you play and taking your time a little bit longer than what the batter wants you to, and hesitating at a part of your delivery and not letting them know exactly what you're going to do at any given time. Anything you can to throw them off a little bit.
Did you feel like you were accepted immediately, even though you were so different than your teammates?
I was. That is one of the things that amazed me the most, is when I walked into the clubhouse, they treated me like I'd been there from day one. And I appreciate that more than anybody. And it was just a lot of fun to hang out with those guys. And, when you're a teacher, you go to Red Lobster, and that's a pretty big deal. When you go out with a big league team and you go to the head of the line at any restaurant you want to and get a table at any given time, that's a totally different animal. And I've gotten to see a lot of good things just because of that experience. And I'll tell you, it wasn't because of anything I did. It was because of that group of kids who did something for me, like a dream I thought was dead.
How important do you think it is to keep our dreams alive, to keep goals and hopes alive, even when we've maybe passed the age where they seem realistic?
Well, here's my deal I talk about in my speeches. The dream you start chasing may not be the one you end up loving the most. Never in my life did I think, I want to be a baseball player. I want to be a baseball player. I think I will go speak to people for a living. That never crossed my mind. I am an introvert of the most. My wife still laughs at me. She goes, you are so different when you're on stage and when you're off the stage. And even my mom heard me. She goes, I don't even have any idea who you are anymore. She goes, you go out there and you talk more in 30 minutes than you talk to me in 18 years. And it's just something that has become in tune with me, and I've had a lot of fun doing it. I've got to meet a lot of great people. I've got to go to a lot of great places, and it's afforded me the ability to learn a lot of different stories about a lot of people.
Thank you so much for being part of our Nobody Told Me family. From time to time, we share information about our sponsors, and today we'd like to tell you about GenoPalette, which is offering a special discount exclusively for our listeners.
GenoPalette uses your personal DNA analysis to discover your ideal intake of carbs, protein, fats, vitamins, and minerals. I've struggled with various nutritional issues, so I was thrilled to get my own GenoPalette analysis. It told me I was likely to have a gluten sensitivity, in addition to metabolizing alcohol and caffeine slower than most people.
Your GenoPalette analysis includes a personalized food map, including the 85 foods that are the healthiest for you based on your DNA. This is great because it lets you know exactly what your body needs from a genetic level.
GenoPalette told me that avocados, soybean sprouts, and turnip greens are among the best genetic-based food recommendations for me, along with plain bagels, egg noodles, and lentils. My report is 19 pages long, so those are just a few of the highlights. To get your report, go to genopalette.com. If you have existing DNA data from 23andMe or Ancestry like I did, you can easily upload your data and get your report in a few simple steps.
Otherwise, you can order the DNA kit like I did directly from GenoPalette. I can't wait for my results. When you use the code NOBODYTOLDME, you'll get 20% off your report. That's genopalette.com, spelled GENOPALATE. Code Nobody Told Me. So check out genopalette.com.
How do you think that people can learn what their real passion and purpose is if it's not working out for them right now? Like you just mentioned that your dream isn't always your destination. How do you know when you need to make a switch?
That's going to be different for everybody. I think that if you're not happy with what you're doing, I think that if you're not succeeding at what you're doing, if what you do is basically not making you happy, you need to do something else.
Mm-hmm.
And you may have wanted to be a doctor your whole life, and you spent $8 million getting all your student loans, and you got your doctorate degree, and you get to the hospital and you go, this sucks. You need to make a change. And not everything we choose as an 18 or 20-year-old is going to be the same thing we want when we're 35, 40, or 50. The things are going to be different. And it's the people who are willing to make that change who are going to go the furthest and are going to realize their dreams that they didn't even know they had. And I think that's what's important.
Are you happy looking back that your journey was not necessarily direct and you had to go through a lot more than a lot of other players to get to where you wanted to be?
I think it made me not take anything for granted. When I got to my first big league ballpark, which was in my home state, the ballpark in Arlington, we were playing the Rangers, I was shocked. I'm in my home state, in my favorite ballpark, seeing my kids for the first time in 3 months, my high school kids for the first time in 3 months, kids I coached against, their coaches had driven school buses 9 hours to come to that game and see me.
Oh, my gosh. How special.
It made everything worth it. If I'd have got that at 19 or 20, I'd have been a spoiled brat. But having been through what I'd been through and going back to college and getting my degree and learning about life and having kids and raising kids and coaching kids, it made me realize this can be just a brief moment, but I'm going to take it for everything it is.
You have a great quote from Mark Twain on your Facebook page, and the quote is, "The two most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why." Tell us why that resonates so much with you.
I think with me growing up, my father was in the Navy, and he was very, very physically and verbally abusive to me. I was afraid to become a parent because I was afraid I would be like that. So from the first time they put my son in my arms, and all I could do was look at him and cry, and I thought, who could ever touch a kid? How could that thought ever cross anybody's mind? That's when I found out who I was supposed to be. It wasn't a baseball player. It wasn't a teacher. It wasn't a motivational speaker. It was a dad.
You looked up a lot to your grandfather growing up. What lessons did he teach you, and why was he so special to you?
He taught me without yelling at me. And he didn't scream, he didn't curse, but he had this commanding, charismatic attitude about him that just made you want to listen. Everything that he taught you was worth knowing. And he knew everybody. He fought in World War II. He fought for all of the freedoms that we're now abusing in this country. And he came home and he started a store from the ground up. And people came from all over the country to buy suits from my grandfather, not just because the quality of the clothes, but because the quality of the man. I mean, Gene Autry would come in from California to my grandfather's store in Brownwood, Texas, population 20,000, to hang out with my grandfather.
Wow.
He just commanded respect. And when he talked, I listened. And I watched, for 15 years, I watched my parents argue, curse, throw, hit, and say things you promised never, ever to do. And in the 3 years I lived with my grandparents, I never heard a cross word said to each other. They never said anything they couldn't take back. They always built each other up. They always backed each other up. And they always made each other look better.
And one of the messages you try to get across to people is that it's important to be the mentor for someone else that you would want for yourself. Tell us more about why you feel that's important and what message you'd like to get out to people along those lines.
I think we get discouraged too easy now because social media, which wasn't around way back when I was a kid, everybody looks at it and they go, oh, this is on social media. This must be true. I can't believe this person is worth $80 zillion. You have to be the best you can be. Mm-hmm. You can't be somebody else. And if the best you can be is teaching in a high school where nobody else wants to teach, but you have the guts to do it and the want to do it, and you want to teach those kids who may be our next astronaut, president, or whoever, that's what makes that dream worth it. And never discount anything. Never in my life did I think I will be a motivational speaker and I will travel around the world. I thought, I am made to coach kids and teach kids. And what happened was those kids taught me that I wasn't done dreaming yet. We can learn from young or old. It doesn't matter how young or old you are. It doesn't matter if you're white, black, purple, male, female, whatever it is. My grandfather said there are two types of people. There are good people and there are bad people. If you're lucky enough, you surround yourself with the good people so that they lift you up and they make you a better person.
How did you learn the skills to become a better public speaker?
It was kind of amazing. My agent made me hire somebody. The guy came down for 5 days from Kansas City. He recorded me speaking once. He talked to me for about an hour. He had me speak again, and then he looked me dead in the eye, and I'm not knocking anybody, don't get this wrong, but he looked at me and goes, you know what? We don't need another Tony Robbins. We need Jim Morris. He goes, you go be you, and people will eat it up. And that was my training. Now, it was a 3-hour training. I still had to pay for 5 days. It was a 3-hour training. I think I can read people really well. Being in a classroom, growing up with the parents that I had, I could see different demeanors and temperaments in people that other people couldn't see. When I'm on a stage, I look for that one person who I know is not paying attention. And once I get their attention, I've got everybody.
How would you describe the role faith has played in helping you reach the high points of your life and cope with the low points?
Well, faith has been with me the whole time. My grandmother was our church secretary. My grandfather was a deacon who also slept sometimes in the church choir, but that's beside the point. But it was amazing. And you hear so many people talk about, I'm this and I'm that, and I do this and I do that, and I deserve this because I do that. My grandparents weren't about that. My grandparents said it's not what you say that counts, it's what you do. It's not the talk that matters, it's the walk. And if you walk the walk, people will listen to what you have to say. And so when I speak and I go out all over the world, I've had speakers bureaus go, you cannot talk about your faith. I've always talked about my faith. Nobody's ever been taken off guard or put off by it. Nobody's ever complained because it's my personal experience. I'm not telling people what they need to do. I'm telling people what worked for me. Mm-hmm. And so that's how I approach it.
How did the movie The Rookie come about?
Oh, man. When I get called up to AAA, I have this guy call me who was my roommate back in the early 80s when I was with the Brewers. And this is a guy who quit playing baseball so he could go be a model in Europe. That's how pretty he was.
Wow.
And he is actually in the movie. He calls Dennis over and interviews him if you want to see him. He still looked good even at 50, and I thought that's disgusting, but whatever. He called me. He goes, we want to make a movie about you. I work out with Michael Eisner every day for lunch. We saw your deal on 2020. We want to make a movie. And I went, you're out of your mind. I'm 35. I'm fat. I'm old. Nobody cares. Go away. And he kept calling back. And I finally called my agent, Steve Canner, and I said, look, this guy's talking about a movie, dude. I'm just here because of a bet with a group of kids. I'm not here for anything else. And I get called up to the big leagues. Third day in the big leagues, Bill Plaschke, writer for the LA Times, does this big article in a Sunday paper. I'm covering the whole front page. All my high school kids are interviewed. That night in the hotel, they had to change my name so people couldn't get a hold of me because they were calling all night. And so over the next 4 days of playing the Angels, I met numerous production companies and different kinds of people. And when I walked into Disney, Steve looked at me and goes, we've been pitched a lot to today. What is it you want out of this movie? And I said, I want a movie about kids who everybody counts out, who overcame obstacles that nobody thought they could overcome, including themselves. And I want a movie about adults that shows you can come back and you can chase that dream, and you don't have to take no for an answer. And I walk in, and the president of Disney's there, and he repeats almost verbatim what I'd said out in the parking lot. And I thought, they have speakers everywhere. And they wanted to keep the movie true to how it was, and that's who we went with, and I'm glad we did.
Dennis Quaid played you in the movie The Rookie. How closely did that portrayal resemble your life?
You know what? He did a good job. He was doing stuff on the mound, and I'm like, dude, what are you doing? He goes, I'm doing the same thing you're doing. You are not. And I get out there, and I'm like, oh, my God, you are doing that. I said, you must be an actor or something. He giggled at me, but we got along great. He's from Texas. He's left-handed. But more than that, he wanted to make me happy. When he signed on to do the project, he said, if you see anything being filmed that you don't like, you tell me it's out. And he was true to his word. I mean, he came over one time, and he goes, right now, what would you tell this group of kids at this point? And so I start talking, and he's listening to me, and he doesn't write anything down. He goes back, action. I said, oh, he's not going to get any of this, man. He didn't write anything down. Almost word for word, everything I said came out of his mouth, and I went, oh, yeah, you're an actor. It was natural, and so we had a good time together. Then they sent us on the movie junket together on the Disney jet, which, by the way, doesn't suck. And so we go around to Seattle and Boston, New York, Washington, D.C., and all these big cities screening the movie because they were afraid, being a G-rated movie, that adults wouldn't like it. And what they found out as Dennis and I went around and met people and introduced the movie, adults liked it as much or more than the kids did. And so it was an amazing time. I think a movie did so well because it was so shortly after 9/11 that it happened, and we needed something to bring us back together. And I'm not going to take the credit for that. I give Disney the credit, Dennis the credit. It was a movie we needed at that time to bring families together.
You've done so much in your life, not only your athletic feats, but being such an inspiration to so many people. What are you the most proud of that you've done?
I am proud of breaking the mold that my dad set. I am proud of being the person that I thought my grandfather was. And if I can keep doing that with my grandkids now, because all my kids are gone, then I'll be a happy man. If I can treat people, and my grandfather always said this, treat everybody like you want your grandmother treated.
Wow, I've never heard that before. I love that.
Yeah.
And if I can treat people like that, even people who sometimes we think don't deserve it, then I'm taking the high road. And if I take the high road, I don't have anything to look back on and go, oh, I did that. I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have said that. I did what I could, and I moved on. And I'm the same way with the person I don't know, the same people I know. I treat everybody with the utmost respect. And I think we need that. We've lost that in this country. We don't know how to be nice. We just want to be angry.
Yeah. And it feeds on itself.
Oh, big time. It is like a big monster.
You know, one of the challenges you've faced in recent years is that of Parkinson's disease. And I wondered if you could tell us a little bit more about how that has impacted your life.
I will tell you, in 2001, I was with the Dodgers, and about 2 weeks into camp, I started noticing that I couldn't judge balls hit back at me. And then we're trying to bunt. Everybody can bunt. I couldn't even bunt the ball. And then guys are playing catch with me, and I can't even judge the ball back at me. And then the headache started. And when you're talking about a headache, you talk about, oh, take a couple Advil, you'll feel better. These were 6-7 month headaches. You'd go to bed with it. You'd wake up with it. Unbelievable amount of pain coming out of your head. You're like, my head is not big enough to hurt that bad. And then my neck would lock up. And that was the start of Parkinson's, but we didn't know it for another 10 years. And so we chased numerous things down for years, nerve impingements and nerve problems. And I quit swinging my arms. I couldn't smell. I couldn't taste. I was shuffling. My mother bought me a cane. Oh, ridiculous. And finally they do a brain scan and they go, you're lacking dopamine. And I went to one of the top guys in the world, and they did a case study on me. They had me do a bunch of tests. And what they said was, you have CTE-induced Parkinson's because you've had too many concussions. And I said, how do you prove that? And they said, we can't prove it till you're dead. And I said, well, that's not going to happen for a while.
Yeah. Let's wait a bit on the proof, huh?
Yeah. And through all of it, the DBS, deep brain stimulation and everything, that helped tremendously. Swing my arms. I'm walking 8 or 9 miles a day. I'm lifting weights. I'm speaking. I'm traveling constantly. And I will tell you this, my faith, you guys brought it up earlier. Mm-hmm. I have a group of people at my church, and they call them my girls. And I'm going to my girls is loosely because they're all 60 to 80 years old. But they pray for me constantly. And I had a brain scan last year, and it does not show Parkinson's anymore.
Wow.
And so now I've got a deep brain stimulator that I've had off for over a year, and I'm showing no signs of Parkinson's whatsoever.
Gosh, that's amazing. You know, we were mentioning before we started the interview that my husband and Laura's father has had Parkinson's since 2001 also, and he's recently found that boxing, specifically for Parkinson's patients, has really helped him. Is that something you've tried?
I have tried that, and we actually have a big group here in San Antonio and Austin, and she is the daughter of one of my wife's friends at our church, and she works out of Austin, and she goes to Austin, San Antonio, and Kerrville and does all these boxing lessons. And another thing is they have a group of bike riders who shuffle and can't hardly get on a bike, and then they ride a bike for an hour, and they get off, and they walk fine. I mean, it's just like retraining the brain, maybe. I'm not sure exactly how it works, but it works. And the boxing thing definitely helps people.
It seems so obvious to me in hearing your stories that you have never viewed yourself as a victim, even though things haven't always gone your way. How have you been able to do that? Because it's so hard for so many people, myself included, to not get discouraged.
I think for me, when I see an obstacle, it is just one more thing to overcome. And when they told me I had Parkinson's, I could have gone a lot of different ways, and I could have lost my mind and done all kinds of things. And you know what? At the end of the day, I'm still going to have Parkinson's. So why not just attack it as it comes and let's see what happens? And it's just one more thing to overcome. And I can't get that through to enough people to go, everything's not going to work our way. It doesn't happen. That's not how life works. Bad things happen. How we attack those things is going to determine who we are and who we become. And I want to be known as someone who could overcome.
Tell us about the new book you have coming out next year. Dream Makers is the title, isn't it?
It is called Dream Makers, and we're working on a subtitle because there's really not much to work on besides Dream Makers. But it's a speech I've been doing for the last couple of years. People really like it, and it talks about surrounding yourself with the best people possible to be the best you can possibly be. And it doesn't matter if you work in an office, if you work in your family. This is for everybody. This is in your family. This is in your office. This is in your church. This is wherever you might be, your friends in your hobby. If you surround yourself with really good people, they're going to lift you up. And this is something I never understood that my grandparents tried to teach me when I was a teenager. You are who you hang out with. And so to take that to the next level, okay, if I'm a bad person because I'm hanging out with bad people and that's who I'm associated with, then why don't I hang out with good people who want the best for me? Because if I do good and they do good, it makes us look better. It's not a me thing, it's a we thing. And it's just like baseball has been my entire life, or football, or my family. It's not me, it's we. And we can do a lot more than me.
And Jim, as you know, our show is called Nobody Told Me. And so we always ask our guests at the end of the show, what is your Nobody Told Me lesson? And you can take it wherever you want. What did nobody tell you about baseball, or not giving up on your dreams, or mentoring that you wish you'd been told before that would have saved you some hard times?
That's a trick question. When I went back to college, I played college football at 27 and 28. I was not told that I got a phone call from somebody who wanted to draft me in the second round as a punter and a kicker. And I did not find out until the movie came out 12 years later. Otherwise, I'd have been in the NFL. The story would have taken on a different meaning, and I wouldn't be married to who I'm married to. We wouldn't have raised 5 great kids. Things happen for a reason. I wasn't supposed to play football. So I didn't know about football, but I wasn't supposed to know about football.
Wow. Wow. Well, we thank you so much for sharing your story with us. We really appreciate it. And we wondered more about how people can connect with you on social media and the internet.
JimTheRookieMorris.com. You guys look me up. I'm on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn.
All right.
Holler at me. I like to give people lessons and talk to them. I like to hear stories, too. I've heard a lot of great stories over the years, and I know this. Everybody's got a story.
Love that. Well, Jim, thank you so much for joining us. Our thanks to Jim Morris. And again, you can connect with him at JimTheRookieMorris.com. I'm Laura Owens.
And I'm Jan Black.
And you've been listening to Nobody Told Me. Thank you so much for joining us.